Today I have Beth Cannon with us. Hi, Beth. How are you doing?
I'm great.
Beth Cannon is an international speaker, educator, and entrepreneur known for her passion for engaging leaders and inspiring teams. And with 25 years of diverse experience, she is known for her niche in creating compelling content that captures the audience. I am so excited to have Beth on our webinar Wednesday today because I have looked into her content over the past couple of months and have seen all the amazing things that she does, including owning 12 franchises of Stretch and Grow, which is an international children's fitness and enrichment company. And the different speaking engagements that you've been in, Beth. I'm so happy to have you on the webinar.
Well, I'm so happy to be here and get to meet some of your friends in your community and share some of my super passionate topics with you guys on creating culture in your teams.
Yeah. Okay. So without further ado, I'll let you get started. I'll kind of make my exit and let you share your screen.
Okay, I will do that. Okay, friends. So the topic tonight is something that I am so passionate about, and that is about creating team culture. You have a culture, whether you realize it or not, whether you've been intentional about creating it or whether it's just kind of happened. And so I want to talk to you guys tonight about creating this brand new culture. Now, if you're on your computer and you are a note taker kind of person and you like to follow along, I do have a guidebook for this training. You can go download it at bethcannonspeaks.com/brand training. And there's it's a PDF that you print and it's a fill in the blank. So if you want to grab that, go grab that. And you can refer to it back during the course. So grab that. But I also want to encourage you guys, turn off your distractions. I know we have Zoom fatigue. It's in the end of the day. I know Danny was telling me where she is. It's dark and blizzardy and cold in Pennsylvania. And where I am in Texas, I'm at a friend's lake house and it is beautiful and sunny here. And the sun has not gone down yet because we're in Central Time. So, but it's the time of the day when we need to kind of turn our distractions off. Maybe you're cooking. So hopefully you can focus because I want you guys to be able to take away some good nuggets. You showed up to get some nuggets. So I want to make sure that you get those. So for those of you guys who have never heard me train, I love it. I love the early childhood community. I've been around it for the last 25 years. I'm a mom. I've got 2 kids that are grown and flown. My daughter's 22 and she is graduating from college and she's working as an early intervention specialist. And then my son is 20 and he's a junior at Baylor University, been married for 25 years. And I absolutely love to get to teach and train and do all the fun things I get to do in this community. So as we break into what it looks like to create culture, I want to talk to you about the word clarity. Clarity makes for easier and better decisions, right? So great decisions are a function of how clear your objective is. And if you have a lack of clarity, that means you don't really know and understand what your brand stands for. So you have an employer brand. And if you close your eyes for a minute, and I want you to think about your team. So do that with me for just a minute. So humor me, shut your eyes down and think about who is on your team. What do they look like? How do they make you feel? How do they make each other feel? How do they make those kids and families feel? And that's your brand. So when you think of a person who would be acting as on brand, who would be acting on brand? Let's say Kelly Ripa. You know who Kelly Ripa is? She's a talk show host. She's short, she's cute, she's spunky, she's a mom, she loves her husband, she's fit, she's active, she's 50 years old and posts bikini pictures, right? So if you were to see Kelly Ripa in a place to where she is, eating McDonald's and stuffing her face and buying donuts and putting unhealthy food in her grocery cart or cursing at her children, like this would be very off brand for her. So think about what your brand is, and that's what we're going to focus on tonight. So there's 3 ways that you can get clarity on what your school culture actually is. So the first one is you need to understand that you were hired to deliver an experience. If you're a director, You need to make sure that your team knows that they were hired to create an experience. Okay, so what is the experience that you want your children and your families to have when they come to the school? Because as an owner of the business, as the director and leader, you know that the center of everything that has to happen drives the engagement of, are those kids happy? Are they well taken care of? Are they loved? Are they learning? The kids revolve around everything. So you have to have your entire team on board with making sure that those kids are the center. And when those kids are the center, everyone wins. The next thing, understand how who you hire and how they interact are going to affect your brand. How do they talk to the children? Do you have teachers who are gruff, who are short with the kids? Do you have teachers who set clear boundaries for the children and set clear expectations with, hey guys, this is the behavior that we want to have? Are you creating a culture of positive redirection and continual reinforcement of those positive behaviors? Or do you have teachers who are the no masters, who are always saying no, stop, no, stop? Or are they teaching and training the children in a way that is conducive to happy kids, happy life, happy center? Then finally, do you understand and are you intentional about building a values-based culture? So as a leader, I would ask you this: do you have specific core values? Because everything rises and falls on your core values. And if you're not intentional about them, your team or people that you really maybe don't want to create the values are creating the values. So do you have a values-driven culture to where everyone understands what you value? Let's say, for example, if you are a faith-based church that's offering a preschool, or if you are a faith-based center, it's very important that those values flow through everything that you do. So if you had teachers who are, cursing at the children, cursing with each other, using foul language, talking about activities outside of the center and outside of work that aren't really conducive to that, that's going to kind of take away from that values-based culture that you chose to create. So those are the three things that are super important. I want you to remember this. This is a super important nugget for you to take away. So make a note of this, that the daily interactions between you, your team, your parents, and your kids reflect the experience that you want to deliver. It's the daily interactions. So when you think about the foundation of your school, you can have your core values listed, you can have your mission listed, you can have your vision listed. But if all of those things don't hit on all cylinders, it's because the daily interactions either build up to your vision and help you to have a constructive environment, or you have a destructive environment where the daily interactions between you and your team and your kids and your families are chipping away at that positive foundation and that positive culture that you hope to create. So keep in mind, it's those daily interactions. So when you have teachers and you have staff who are constantly not living into the culture and the value and the vision that you've created, that's a nail in your coffin every single time. So keep in mind that those daily interactions absolutely do matter. So when you're looking at creating clarity around your brand, and when you're looking at creating clarity around the culture that you're hoping to create, there's three questions I want you to ask yourself. Number one, what do your actions say that you value? So let's say, for example, you want to create a community of collaboration and leadership, because everyone's a leader. All teachers are leaders. If you treat your teachers as leaders and you empower them to be decision makers and you empower them to create and to develop ways to run their classroom, that is, you're valuing a leadership-based culture, because you're empowering your teachers to become leaders. You empower your assistant and your director to lead the team. And again, with the kids as the center of that. So what do your actions say that you value? Do you show up and support, or do you lead from a distance? I've consulted with a school. The school's been around for a long time. It's very successful in terms of numbers, but their culture is tragic, because the director, the owner, has hired a director and has hired an assistant farming out activities that she doesn't want to do. She likes to come in and just do the bookwork and see, yes, oh, good, we're making money. But the culture at the school is not good, because there is a division among the staff. She's got assistant teachers and lead teachers and the hierarchy and the drama, and I call it the estrogen cloud. And she's not leading from a place of mutual support and collaboration. So she says she values a leadership community, but she's having to retrace her steps and step up and be that leader, and has a coach approach. Now she has some tools to go in and coach her team. So when the teachers and the directors come to her and say, oh, this is a disaster, she's empowering them, and she can say, well, tell me the issue. What's working? What's not working? What needs to change? What are some strategies you've tried? If someone were to come to you with this problem, how would you address it? So again, it's that culture of collaboration. If that's what she's saying she's valuing, are her actions lining up? So that's question number one. The other question is, what do you personally believe in? What are your values? What drives you? Do you see your school as just a business, or do you see it as a part of your mission and it's part of a passion? Because I can tell you this, most people are not in early education because they expect to make the big bucks. So if you're making the big bucks, kudos, pat yourself on the back. You are unlike a lot of early childhood owners. It's a building process. So if you can get to where you can get one center, or possibly add multiple centers, or add some products and add some services where you're actually really driving those revenue goals that you want to, you probably are passionate about what you do. So what do you believe in? And then the other thing is, what is your why? Why do you do this? Why do you show up? And so I would really just ask you, as you're looking at what the kind of culture that you want to create with your team is, what's your why? Why do you want to do this? Because your culture is an expression of everything that you value. So I want you to jot this down. Your values plus your culture equals your brand. Your values, the values that you have imparted on your team, plus the culture that you've created. And the culture is the things that you see on the outside, and then the things underneath, the way that the teachers and the families and the children interact with each other. That's all culture. And that again equals your brand. You have a brand of teachers. You have a brand of what your school looks like. And are you proud of that brand? Have you created something that you love? Have you created a team that just gives you joy and gives you energy when you wake up in the morning? Or do you have some work to do? So if you have some work to do, I'm going to have some ideas for you. But I want to talk to you about your staff brand. Okay. So all that a staff brand means is that it's a process of promoting the organization as a great place to work to the kind of talent required for you to get to live out your mission. Okay, so as a staff brand, you want to promote yourself as a great place to work. So I don't want you to just think in terms of who you have now, like who you have in your center, who your people are, who you are shoulder to shoulder with when you're at your center. I want you to think about, how can you promote this as a great place to work? So when you do have an opening, and if you've got an opening, I'd love for you guys to drop in the comments or shout out, like, I need teachers. I need to refine my recruitment process. What kind of talent are you attracting? Because right now it's hard, right? The pool of early childhood educators, we've seen it. It's kind of funneling down and shrinking. Number one, maybe they're fearful to go out because of COVID. Maybe they're homeschooling their own children. Maybe, they've lost other streams of revenue in their home. Maybe their husband or their spouse or their partner's lost a job, and they need to go find a career that doesn't just bring them joy, but something that brings them some more money at the time, or maybe they needed to pick up another job. So whatever the reasons are, you want to work to attract the people who are going to help live into the values and the culture that you want to create. Because this is what I'm learning. They're there. And the teachers that are in the centers now are quality. They are the people who have survived. They are the people who are continuing to show up day after day after day. So maybe they need a little bit of loving on. Maybe you've had a teacher who's great and now they're tired. And I want you guys to just stop for a minute and hold space for the fact that maybe you're tired and maybe your teachers are tired, and that's okay. Good thing Christmas is coming. You're about to have some time off for the holidays. So hopefully you can recharge and relax and regenerate and get a little bit renewed energy going into the new year. But again, think about how you would promote your school as a great place to work, because that's the kind of talent that you're going to continue to attract. So as you're thinking about that, work it out. Now, if you printed out your workbook, and if you didn't, again, I've dropped the web address there. It's bethcannonspeaks.com/brand training, and you can get the workbook for this training. So I want you to write out all the words that you would use to describe your school, because this is going to lead us into getting down to the nitty-gritty of those brand words. So when I'm doing this workshop live and actually have people who are interacting with me, it's so strange doing it from a living room, but when you think about those words, is it loving? Is it family-like? Is it nurturing? Is it play-based? Is it academic? Is it faith-based? Is it nature-based? Is it Montessori? Is it ratio? Is it, do you use Frog Street curriculum? I mean, whatever the things are that describe your school, is it your curriculum? Is it your team? What are those things? So you write down all of those words, and then you funnel out those words, and you'll kind of refine it down to what maybe your top 5 are going to be. But the next thing I want you to work out is this, is what would your best teacher say it's like to work at your school? So close your eyes for a minute. Think about your best teacher. Who is she? How long has she been with you? What age group does she teach? What are her true talents? Like, what is her ninja skill that makes her your best teacher? I'm probably going to say it's her heart for children. She absolutely adores working with the kids. Let's see, we've got one chat. How can I access the workbook? Web link is partially hiding. Okay, it's bethcannonspeaks.com/brand training. Okay, bethcannonspeaks.com /brand training, and you put your email in, and it'll shoot it to you via email, and you can click it and download it. So what would your best teacher say it's like to work at your school? Does she like the kids? Does she like the environment? Does she like the work hours? Does she like the curriculum? Does she like you as a leader? Because I'm going to guess if you're going to say she's your best teacher, you probably like her and she probably likes you. So what would she say it's like to work at your school? Then what is your secret sauce? If you guys know, I would love for you to tell me what you think your secret sauce is for your school. I can say for my team, as Danny mentioned, I don't own a center, I own an enrichment program that works in centers. So pre-COVID, we were in over 100 centers teaching about 10,000 classes a week. We've done fitness and yoga and dance and sports and gymnastics and music. And so we have a variety of enrichment programs that we go in and teach the kids. And I would say that my secret sauce for my staff is their energy and their enthusiasm. They've got to have this incredible energy because they're doing action-oriented classes. And I don't know where you guys are, if there's any, or if you have your licensing standards require a certain amount of physical activity. In order to get kids moving, you've got to move yourself. Your teachers have to move. You can't just turn on music and say, jump like a frog, swim like a fish, gallop like a horse. You've got to actually be active. So because they're delivering action-oriented programs, they've got to have the energy and enthusiasm. They got to have the integrity. They've got to build relationships. So think about what your secret sauce is. And are you constantly training new talent on this atmosphere of collaboration? And I will tell you this, I know Danny had mentioned to me that she'd gotten a few comments or a few questions prior to this webinar. And I believe this more than anything. It is not aptitude, meaning skills and knowledge, that makes your secret sauce. It is not the education of your team. It is their attitude. You can hire on aptitude. You can bring those people in based on their skills, but you're going to fire based on their attitude, right? Based on what they don't do. So you're going to hire them for what they can do, but you'll fire them for what they don't do. It's their attitude. It's their heart. So if you can align hearts, and if you can get your team on the same page, not just those that are showing up and checking the box, create this culture of leadership to where everyone's holding everyone accountable. That's going to be your secret sauce. So let's talk about that being your employer brand. Because again, if you close your eyes and you think about your team, think about who they are, that's your brand. So this is my team. You can see we're fun, we're energetic. Now you don't have to do the splits. to be hired, but that makes it a lot of fun if you can, if you're teaching dance and gymnastics. But what is your employer brand? And this is us. So your talent attraction strategy should display exactly who you are as an employer to the kind of talent that you want to attract. I need people who are fit. I need people who are fun. I need people who are energetic and who smile and who are going to go above and beyond to create relationships with our customers and create experiences for our kids. You want people who want to create experiences for those kids. Okay. Jemiah, you're saying LOL. I don't know what you're LOLing about, but I'm glad that you're laughing.
I think it was the splits, Beth.
Oh, the splits. Yes. Now, I will tell you guys, I'm 50 and I do yoga, and I was a cheerleader and a dancer for a long time, but I can still do the splits. Like I'm right here in the living room and I can put my leg right up there. You see that? That's what doing yoga does for you. And if you're ADD, you can keep moving and moving and moving and moving. And the older that you get, you stay fit and you stay active. So I want to encourage you guys, if you don't have a regular fitness regimen, that you're not moving your body, you don't have to put your leg over your head, but you don't have to do the splits, but you've got to move your body. When you move your body, you change your mind. And when your teachers are sitting around like bumps on a log, they're not going to have the energy to engage those kids. That's what you want, and that's what you need, because how do your teachers affect your brand identity? Again, I will remind you, it is the daily interactions between the teachers and each other, and the teachers and the families, and the teachers and the kids, and the families and the teachers, and you and your director and your assistant and your teacher and your families, and it all goes around and it centers right in on those children. So it's the daily interactions, guys. Okay, one more question. LOL, yes, the split. That's awesome. Okay, now I'm going to tell you guys. I got a little feedback on using this picture because I had a director say, I've got a teacher and that's exactly what she's like. I know she smokes because I can smell it when she comes in. I know she doesn't get a lot of rest because her energy level is terrible. I know that her hygiene is not that great because I can smell her sometimes. She's like, but she's a great teacher and I don't know what to do about that. So if that's you, guys, if that's you, if you've got a teacher who is showing up less than her best self, that's part of your brand. And when you allow that and you don't coach your staff in a healthier way of life and in a healthier way to present themselves, that's what you are going to get. You're going to get someone who doesn't take care of their hygiene. And that's important. That's not a socioeconomic thing. That's basic hygiene. And maybe there's some coaching around that. And maybe you as a leader need to talk to your teachers about hygiene. I mean, if you've ever had to have that conversation, tell me. That's a really uncomfortable conversation, is to have to tell one of your teachers, like, give her a goodie bag with deodorant in it or breath mints in it. I mean, that's one thing that the mask has done, right? You can't smell if someone has bad breath or not. But guys, hygiene is so important. And so I don't want to let this be the elephant in the room that nobody talks about. You've got to talk to your teachers about their appearance because it matters. Okay, your talent attraction strategy should display exactly who you are as an employer to the kind of talent that you want to attract. So when you're looking at your brand, what does your staff look like? Do they come to work not put together, not practicing good hygiene, not practicing good, healthy habits? Because it's going to affect so many things. And if you're thinking, oh, I don't know, I don't believe that, I promise you, it's affecting that. So you model that, you set the tone of that. So what do you want your staff brand to look like, act like, and interact like? So is your staff brand attracting your ideal customer? I want to tell you guys something. Not everybody is your people. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Not everybody is your people. You think any family with children under the age of 5 are my people, and they're not your people. And so sometimes the way that your staff brand portrays themselves, it tells you, like, what are you attracting? And so know the kinds of customers that you want to serve. You know, maybe you are in a community where you're in a corporate community to where you have a lot of working families. So your challenges are going to be helping serve those families whose parents are not around. That means that your teachers are probably going to be the ones spending about 90% of those wake time hours with those children. You have a tremendous opportunity to impact. But if that's who you are and you're open from 6 a.m. to 6 or 7 p.m., you're serving those working parents, you've got to have the staff and you've got to have the team that are going to be on board with putting in those kinds of hours. You've got to be willing to put in those kinds of hours, or maybe you're a part-time program. You've got to be able to attract teachers who only need to work part-time, who don't need that full-time job. So understanding that your staff brand is really actually attracting your ideal customer. So if you want quality families, you've got to have a quality staff, because quality families, and again, I'm not talking about socioeconomic, I'm talking about the culture of how these families are going to treat your teachers, how they're going to treat you, how they've taught their children, and how their children are going to interact. And I have a director that I do some consulting with, and this is her kind of code word for her assistant. So a family comes in to do a tour, and she has come to realize that not everyone is her people. There could be a challenging parent, a questioning parent, maybe a child with some behavior issues, and her staff maybe just doesn't have the capacity in that particular classroom to be able to take on a child with special needs. And so you would be doing a disservice at that time to that family if you don't have the staff and the capacity to be able to serve that family. And again, that's not a popular idea. It's not a popular thought process, but that it's the truth. And so when you can be honest with yourself about, I don't know that I can serve my needs, that director's code word is, well, we have a wait list. We'll look to see if we can shift anything around, and we will get back to you if we are able to shift around and help you. You don't want to let a parent know. You obviously do not want to discriminate. And I would never, ever, ever tell you to discriminate, but I am telling you, look at your capacity and look at what you can or cannot handle, and be honest with your team. Can you level up your team to be able to expand their capacity? Absolutely. But I want you to be real with yourself and real with your expectations, and understand what you can and can't take on for the mental health of you and for your teachers. So I want to keep that in mind. So I want to ask you this question, is the next one, is do your teachers see your families as your customers? Because truly, both the parents and the children are your customers. And I find that a lot of teachers don't see the families as customers. Like, the teachers oftentimes see, like, I'm the teacher, you're bringing that child to me, and I'm going to take care of that child. They're in my care, but they don't really treat the children and the families as customers. Now, if you're the owner, or you have some sort of financial stake in the financial health of your center, you absolutely see them as customers. But when you look at those children as, if we don't do all that we can to serve these children well, if we don't give the families the confidence that they place when they bring their kids, they're bringing you their kids and their money, the two most important things that they have, right? So they're entrusting you to bring you these children. So are your teachers mindful of serving those families like they are customers? I mean, if you go with the Chick-fil-A, can we do anything for you? My pleasure. It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. So does your team understand that? So that's a cultural component that, if you are a note taker and you're taking notes, keep in mind that your teachers need to see the families as customers, because part of running a business, and it is a business, is that we preserve the revenue stream. Okay. Now we're going to work on clarity. Again, if you haven't printed it out, there is that link again for the download. But if you're just taking notes, you don't necessarily need it. I'm going to go over an acronym for the word clarity. So we're going to walk through. So if you're taking notes, write the word clarity going up and down, and we're going to bounce back and forth and give you guys a little bit of fill in on this. So the clarity, the C in clarity is your core idea. So when I say clarity, this is going to give you a sense of what your staff brand is, what your employer brand is. And in one sentence, what's your brand all about? One sentence. And that might be something you need to think about, but just jot it down. What is your brand all about? Who are you serving? How are you serving them? What are the key components of the brand that you've established? Then the L is, what do you love about your school? So when you're thinking about being clear on who you want to attract, is what do you love to talk about? What do you love to teach? And what do you love to learn? I'm so proud of you guys for showing up on a Wednesday night to learn. So you love to learn something. So obviously, if you're here, you are loving learning tips and tools to help level up your school. These are the fundamentals for your school. Like, you need to love your school and you need to believe in its mission. So what do you love? And then the A is, who's your audience? Okay, when you're thinking in terms of hiring, what kind of person are you looking to hire? Because if you're looking to hire someone who can pass a background check with a heartbeat, you're going to be so unhappy with that person. And I know we've all hired out of desperation, guys. And there is no shame in that game. We've all hired out of desperation, but you've got to think about what's the kind of person that you're looking to hire, and ask yourself, does experience matter more than character? As I've said 3 times, this is the 3rd time I'm going to tell you, I think that their character matters far more than the experience that they're bringing. And think about this, what kind of values do they bring? What are their personal values that they're bringing to work? Okay, then the R, research your staff. If you want to know what your staff is like, do you know what their struggles are? Do you know what their achievements are? What have they accomplished? What do they like? What do they don't like? What motivates them? What inspires them? Because if you know what makes someone feel valued, that is going to be a ninja skill for your retention. We all want to know, like, how can we retain our team? Know what they value and know how to make them feel valued. For some, it's money. For some, it's public praise. For some, it's a shout out on social media. For some, it's a gift card. For some, it's just a, hey, quiet pat on the back. For some, it's a parent testimonial. But know what makes them feel valued. And then also, what problems do they need solved and what questions do they need answers? Are you there to serve them and make sure they get all the information from you that they need? And then the I, what ideas do you have for your staff? How can you motivate them? Do you spend time thinking about how to motivate your staff? How can you develop them? How can you improve retention, and how can your staff contribute to what your core idea is? So these are things that you need to think about. Are you bringing them learning activities that inspire them and that they can actually use? Or are you letting them get on some online training that's just somebody reading a slide deck and they've got to answer the questions? That's so boring. Are they getting anything out of it? I just did we called it Stuck to Strategy Academy, and it was a director academy. And one of the things that we do is take apart our employee manuals and we put them into training modules. So they're like online modules. Had one director, she had a 130-page employee manual that she had bought from an attorney. And it was kind of a cover yourself training manual. But she was like, nobody's following the rules. I'm like, well, who the heck is going to read a 130-page book and know everything to do? Nobody's going to do that. So does that cover the director for liability? Well, probably so, if anything were to ever happen. But how's her team functioning? They're not. So think about those things. Then the T is your timeline. What is your timeline? Using the ideas that you're getting, how do you want to implement that? It starts with your ability to manage your own time. Are you a good time manager? If you can't lead yourself, you cannot lead other people. And being a great leader means managing your time. And so think about the ideas that you'd like to implement, and you got to be intentional about doing that. The end of the year is a great time to plan. I love December because I love to plan. I am right now, I mentioned to you guys, I'm here in Texas and I'm at my friend's lake house, and I'm with another colleague, and we are planning and creating new experiences for our team, for our trainings coming up in January. And I'm so excited because I love my team so much, and I want them to love their job so much. I want them to love their kids so much. I am racking my brain coming up with new tips and tricks to give them to be able to use in their classes. And then finally, again, what's your why? I've mentioned it before. It all comes back to your why. Why do you want to own or manage the brand that you have? And it's your why, not your brand's why. Why do you want to own the school you have? And then how can you incorporate your why into your brand? Make sure that your brand is serving so that it fits what your why is. Whatever your passion is, make sure that your brand is in alignment with that. And then we're almost done, guys. Just a few things that you can do to intentionally build that value in your brand. We call it the 4 C's. Okay, the 4 C's, that's the connection in building your brand. That's the relationships and social network that people get at school. Then what's the culture? Again, the formal and informal organizational norms that are happening. You have a culture, whether you've been intentional about building it or not, only you know that question. You haven't been intentional about it. Your team, good or bad behavior, has built that culture for you. Then the clarification. These are the roles and expectations. Do they truly know what they are expected to do at work? And then compliance. Again, rules, regulations. That's just licensing stuff. This is what I want you to look. I want you to look at this graphic, and I want you to really understand that what's on the bottom, which is the thing that maybe makes us as leaders kind of fire off, because it's compliance, the rules and regulations. Are we doing what we're supposed to do? Are we cleaning? Are we sanitizing? Are we following the ratios? Are we following the licensing requirements that the states put out for us? That's compliance. It is the least important thing in building intentional value. Next is the clarification. It's right above compliance. They need to know what's expected of them at work. Then it's your culture, and then it's your connection. So as you're looking at this list, understand that the connection that you have with your team and that the connection that your team has with each other, that is the single most important component in building your brand. And then how to order your values proposition. And all that means is this: when you're looking on the continuum of what your staff needs, number one, they need from you emotional support, especially now in this crazy, crazy, crazy year. They are tired. They've been through a lot. They need to know that you've got the emotional support for them. You might not be able to go in and let them have a paid week of vacation. You might be able to go in and relieve them from break so they can go get a mental health 30 minutes. You might be able to do something kind for them. You might be able to give them some sort of training on self-care. You can give them that emotional support. The next thing they need from you is respect. Some leaders, and I've seen it, and it's so ugly, guys, it's so ugly. It's this attitude of, I'm the boss and you work for me. The teachers are the talent, you're the agent. They work with you. They work in collaboration to help keep those children children and families at the center of importance. So respect them, trust them. If you have team members you can't trust, they need to be on their way out, because if you don't trust them, you'll never be able to fully unleash, and you're always going to have this underlying bitterness towards someone that you can't trust. And very rarely have I seen people be able to recover from a serious breach of trust. People don't change all that much. As the leader, it's your job to pull out what's in. You can't stuff in what was never there. You've got to pull out what talent they do have and unleash that. And then it's got to be fun. Is it fun to work for you? Are you a fun person? Do you laugh with your team? Do they laugh with each other? I mean, you're working with children. It should be fun. Or is it a gloom and doom and we just got to do this thing? And then finally, the quality. And again, as far as your values proposition go, emotional support, then respect, then trust, then fun, then the quality of education. It doesn't matter what great of a program that you have, how great your building is, how great your curriculum is. If you don't have an emotionally supportive staff, doesn't drive a good culture, you're not going to keep your team, you're not going to keep your families, you're not going to enjoy your job, and you're not going to be able to live into your why. So keep in mind that your values proposition starts with the emotional support of your team. And then finally, your challenge today is choose one of these categories and be clear on the experience that you want your team to deliver every single day. So obviously, I think that connection is the most important thing. I think it is very, very challenging in COVID times to be able to connect like this. So you've got to figure out, how can you be able to connect with your team during the difficulties of a season like this? So be intentional about it. How can you connect with them? How can you connect with each other? How can you support? So I would just challenge you to pick one of those things and be intentional about it and make some change. Don't let this just be another webinar that you watch while you're cooking and you never walk away with any tools. I promise, if you implement some of these things, you're going to love your job even more, and your team's going to love working for you. And that's basically it. So we have a course over this. It's called Create a Brand New Culture. It's an online course. You and your team can go on and take it. And then we also have a Facebook community, and you can find me on Facebook at Beth Cannon Speaks. And that is all. We
Thank
have.
you, Beth. Just to quickly
Absolutely.
answer Shanique's question, yes, the presentation will be sent out. Um, Most likely tomorrow. We have a snow day tomorrow, so I'll have some free time to edit and send it out. But Beth, thank you so much. I definitely have a few writer downers as I was listening to you. My favorite part is teachers are the talent and you're the agent. I thought that was a beautiful way to describe the relationship between teachers and administrators. And you emphasize something that I often say as well, finding your people. I definitely believe that not every family is right for every program.
Absolutely.
And I often tell my clients that regardless of how much competition might be around you, because there are certain places that are overcrowded with daycare centers, you might have something very unique that other programs are not offering.
Right.
So I loved that, finding your people. But this is the best time to get into some questions. I forgot to mention in the beginning to use the Q&A box to put your questions in so you don't forget. Hopefully you guys didn't forget your questions. Do you want me to read them out to you, Beth?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. Sylvia wants to know any tips on how to give thanks, recognize support for staff without letting them take advantage of my kindness as their boss.
Okay. First, there's a little bit of psychology in the way that question is worded. So, and what is her name? Sylvia?
Sylvia.
Okay. So Sylvia, you've been hurt by your team. You've been hurt by people who have taken advantage of you in the past, and that has hurt your heart. And I know that your heart is to love on and nurture your team. So the first thing I want to encourage you to do is surrender that. Okay. Surrender those thoughts of bitterness or unforgiveness that aren't really serving you right now, because that's going to keep you from loving people well. So that's thing number one. Thing number two is know what each individual team member feels valued by. Like, for example, are you familiar with the Enneagram test, Annie?
Yes, I took it after hearing you and Chris Murray talk about it on the
Okay.
Childhood Rockstar radio podcast. I did take it a few weeks ago.
Do you know what your number is?
Oh my goodness, I'd have to look. I think 6. Actually, it was 6.
Okay.
Yes.
Loyalist. Okay.
Yes.
Well, and I say that to say, and the Enneagram is just a personality test, and I give it to my team because it helps you know, and I have a course on it on BethCannonSpeaks.com called Dare to Be Self-Aware, but it helps you know what their core fears and what their core motivations are. Okay. So when you know their Enneagram number, like let's say, for example, a 2 is a helper. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I know that my 2s are motivated by helping people. I know that they're valued when they can help people. So like when I want to value her, I kind of give her a role in a leadership position and say, hey, you've done such a good job. I would love for you to kind of help so-and-so in the 2s room with this. And by the way, here's a Starbucks card if you know she loves coffee. Thank you for that. Here is a logo t-shirt, little gifts, but sometimes it's just for those that are 2s, it's just the recognition and acknowledgement that that you love them and that you appreciate them and that you acknowledge them. So some like words of affirmation, know their love language. Is it words of affirmation? Is it a physical touch? Is it money? Is it gifts? What is it? And know your people, know how to individually love on each one of those people.
Right. So do you suggest that Sylvia does do something like that? Like, is the Enneagram test free to?
Yes. There's a free Enneagram. You can Google it. There's a free Enneagram test. But Sylvia, I want you to unleash the love that you feel like you need to unleash. If someone takes advantage of you, that's on them. Take them off your hook and put them on God's hook, right? That's their own issue. That's their own concern. If you feel led to love on your people, I want you to freely love on your people. Whatever it is that is on your heart to love them, you love them. What they do with it, that's their position.
Love it. Okay. Lakia says, how can I check behind staff daily, like diapers, etc., without being a pain in the butt and keep from micromanagement?
Okay. are your SOPs, your standard operating procedures, very clear? Like, do they know what's expected? Maybe it's a checklist that you need to have on the door at every time. And just to say, hey, by the way, guys, we just want to make sure that we're hitting all cylinders. So let's have a checklist by the door every single time. If you don't have those clear standard operating procedures, it could be a communication thing that maybe she just doesn't think about doing the diapers, whatever you need her to do with the diapers. She may not even think about it. She may be like an Enneagram 7. They're the enthusiast. They just want to have fun. They're looking to do the next fun thing with the kids, and they left a dirty diaper on the counter, not because they're trying to be messy or because they're trying not to be mindful, but they just went on to the next fun thing. Mm-hmm. But so sometimes that's some coaching and training around this, hey, guys, these are the operating procedures. Just make sure to get that checklist done. You get that checklist done, you won't hear a thing from me. But if the checklist is not done, we just need to have some things to keep the kids safe and to keep the rooms clean and to keep the parents happy.
Yeah, checklists have worked for me in my centers as well. We struggled with that a lot before, and then we implemented an opening checklist and a closing checklist, and staff have to turn it in at the end of their shift, signing off that they did all those things.
Right, and that is creating a culture of accountability. Mm-hmm. Because you think some things are, and again, the Enneagram, and I don't want to keep referring to this because the training's not about this, but there are truly there's 9 different ways that people see the world. So what my normal is not your normal. I'm a 3, so I'm an achiever. I'm a big picture person. Mm-hmm. Like, I would never, ever, ever put a webinar on with messy countertops behind me. I would never, ever do that because appearance is important to me. So I need a clean background. You need a clean background. But for someone that's not important to, they could care less what's behind them. They're just on there to talk to the people.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that one of the people are better. It's just what's important to you and what's not important to you. So you have to understand that your people see different things as important. Some people like order and they like to do things orderly. And some people are just messy and they don't think about the process. They're just thinking about the end result.
Right. Right. Okay. And Shanique wants to know, Beth, if you have any course or resource for interview questions or the do's and don'ts for the hiring process when looking for talent.
So that is in part of our Stuck to Strategy Academy, which the doors will open again in March. So we do have a very comprehensive 8-week training that is a part of that process, but it's your recruiting process. And so as far as your interview questions go, I want to refer back to, because one question that I think someone sent in ahead of time was, what is the one question that you can ask, right, to nail it down? Mm-hmm. Here's my question. Tell me about a time you enjoyed a group of children. The psychology behind that question is this: I don't care about their experience. I don't care about the years that they've been doing childcare or teaching early education. I want you to tell me about a time that you enjoyed other people's children, because they will absolutely light up. Mm-hmm. And other questions that are important are questions around your culture and your core values. I have our core values listed on our website. Mm-hmm. And before I interview someone, I always say, I want you to go look at our website, fill out the application. I want you to look at those core values, because we're going to talk about those. Like, does that resonate with you? For example, we go into a lot of faith-based communities to teach our classes. It is very important for the ministries at those churches to have people of like faith working with their children, because that's something that's important to them, right? We're a guest in their home. So that's important. So one of the things that I say is our faith drives our values. So if I'm going to put you in that environment, I want you to be comfortable in that environment. Not all of our environments are that way, but if you're a faith-based person, and that's an important core value for you to have for your center, then you need to hire people with those values that line up, right?
Right.
So be intentional about your core values and make sure that their values resonate with yours.
Right. Makes total sense. I want to get to one or two of the questions that were sent in beforehand. Okay. Did you have specific ones that you wanted to answer, or I could just pick at random?
Yeah, just pick at random, because that was the one I really wanted to get that question out there, because I think that
was a good one. How do you maintain a level of morale in your center once your team is already formed, and how would you promote staff retention?
Okay, I want you to think of it not as I don't want you to think of your evaluations as a one-time thing. Like so many people, like you hire people, you train them, and then you talk to them a year later about how things are going. That's what most people do.
Mm-hmm.
When you have an environment of continuous learning and continuous improvement is how you keep that retention, right? So what are your modes of learning? Are you having weekly check-ins? Research says that employees need to know once a week, every 7 days, what is something that they've done well. So do you have a culture of constant reinforcement of their positive behaviors? It's the same concept as you have with kids, right? If you want kids to act right, what do? You reinforce their positive behaviors, right? You reinforce when they're making good choices. I'm so proud of you. Great job. Same thing with your staff. We all need that positive reinforcement, but it's intentional and it is continual. So again, your modes of learning. Are you having weekly check-ins? Are you having, and I don't mean monthly meetings. I'm not a big fan of meetings at all. I'm a big fan of, if I need something from one of my people, I go ask them for that. When I have their attention one-on-one, I want it to be fun. I want it to be energetic. I want it to be engaging, and I want it to give them value.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's continuous. It's a day-to-day thing. We don't think of it as I'm going to do this, and check the box off. It's, are you continually valuing the people and working on building your team and working on your teamwork?
Right.
And when you have a culture of collaboration, that is your ninja skill for retention.
Right.
They gotta like each other and they gotta like you.
Yeah, that's interesting. Leaning more on weekly check-ins versus staff meetings, like monthly or quarterly meetings that we're also used to. But I guess if you're doing the weekly check-ins and you have a great culture with your team, it's not necessary to bore everyone with a full day's worth of
because
meetings.
Nobody wants to do it.
Right.
And, and that's another thing that COVID has opened, because you're probably not wanting to bring all your team in the same area.
Yeah.
Right? We've got to be masked and we've got to keep each other apart. So think about the things that you're learning through the pandemic, and maybe think about what things you want to keep. Nobody wants to come to your monthly boring meetings.
Right. And I will say that we have actually started doing virtual meetings since the pandemic because we can't have our teachers in the same room. And it's been great. I'm able to share my screen. I can show them videos. We can take breaks. I love it. And it's definitely going to stay well beyond this COVID emergency.
Well, and are your meetings giving them value? That's what I want you to think about your meetings, is, are you giving them value, or are you getting them in front of you so that you can tell them what you need to tell them and go and spout out your to-do list?
Right.
It wastes everyone's time.
Yeah. And how about your job descriptions? Would you be able to speak on that? Someone, Melinda, wanted to know about good wording for job description posts.
Okay, I will share this with you because I've got kind of a list of different blogs and things like that I've read. So when I go to do any job description, I kind of refer back to those. I'm a huge believer in Post-it notes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get ideas out of my head. So when you're coming up with your job description, I want you to get a stack of Post-it notes, and I want you to write down everything that you want those teachers to do. Everything. And it's so fun. Okay, I'm going to show you guys what it's really like to live in my head, because I'm at my friend's lake house and we're doing this collaboration. Okay, I want you to get ready for it. Are you ready for it? This is
my goodness. Wow.
We are working on a leadership team. And so, like, I don't know even if you can read it, but like, we're talking about the coach approach. Mm-hmm. Like when you're coaching around coaching, like, how are we motivating and developing our team? We're asking them the right questions. We're talking about our modes of leadership. I didn't even plan on showing you guys this, but
we love it behind the scenes.
This is real life, right? Weekly check-ins. Yeah. Team teaching. Are you getting in the classroom and are you team teaching with them and modeling what is a good way to handle this child? What is a good way to teach this lesson? Mm-hmm. Are you having coffee connections, or we call it lunch and learns? We call it Coach Camp when we have our big trainings at the same time of year. And then our assessments, are we giving them intentional feedback? So honestly, I'm glad she asked that question, because we're working on a job description for a leadership position. And this is exactly how we do it. We get every component out of our head. See right there, it says job description. Mm-hmm. Every component out of our head for everything we want them to do. And then we're going to take the verbiage from this and create those job descriptions that are going to speak to exactly what's going to be expected.
Right. Wow. That's awesome. And it's definitely interesting to see that for me, because I feel like I personally work the complete opposite way, where I do everything on the computer, because if I have a whole bunch of paper and Post-its in front of me, I feel like I won't be able to focus on anything.
Well, are you familiar with Trello?
I have tried Trello before. I've used Trello very briefly.
It is fabulous. And can you let me share my screen for just a minute?
Yeah, sure. I think you still have access to, no?
Okay, I still have access to it. Okay, yeah. Let me escape out of this. I don't know if it's going to let me. Okay, it's going to let me escape. I want to show you guys a Trello board. Trello is, basically a project management system. And I use Trello so much for so many different things to collaborate. So when we did Stuck to Strategy, part of the component of that was to have a recruiting Trello board. So think of my Post-it party, Danny, if you like to do it on computers. This Trello is a Post-it party online. So think this is the board. These are the lists, and then we've got cards underneath the lists, right? So this is how I organize all of my recruiting tools. So I've got this list right here, team recruiting tools. And then underneath that, I've got a job application, the links to the job application. I've got my job description. So I mentioned to you, I had some articles that I like to refer to. So these are my articles that I keep: job descriptions and templates for childcare directors and teachers, preschool teacher job descriptions, how to build a preschool job description. So when I'm wanting to create something new, I keep everything in this Trello board. It's called recruiting. I know exactly where it is, and I stay so organized because I keep everything within this board. If I need to post a job, I know right here, this is where I've got all of the places that I'm going to post. I've got an applicant tracking process here. Every time I get an applicant, I create a card for them that's got their application in it. I make all the notes. I can collaborate with my team on that. If I hired them, I put them here. If they didn't work for me, I scoot them right over here in this out of the game. Nope, she's not a good fit. And then when I have people that I interview that I think are great, I put them in the potential pipeline. So that's true.
This is so beautifully organized.
So anyways, I have to get stuff out of my brain like that. Then I can.
Right.
So, however you do it. But to me, that's the best way that you're going to know what your processes are, if you write down everything you need to do, because you think you know until you pull out a thing of Post-it notes. So Danny, I'm going to challenge you, that nice white wall you have behind you, the next time I see it, I want you to have some.
I'll try it. And I just want to point out that Jemiah, I hope I'm saying your name right, she said something I never knew I needed. And that's exactly what I hope to bring to you guys during these weekly webinars. That's what I experience whenever I have hosts like Beth. And when I'm attending other people's webinars, like yesterday, I was in a webinar about remote learning, didn't really want to go. And I went anyway, and I saw them using this website called Ed Puzzle. Have you heard of it? It's a place where you can upload videos and put marks within the videos to stop and ask the viewer questions, and they can't skip until they finish answering the question. And so many light bulbs went off in my head because of seeing that website. It had nothing to do with the webinar, but just that one little point gave me so many ideas for what I can implement within my business. I'm going to use that website for staff trainings. So I loved that comment. I had to point it out.
Oh, good. Well, that makes me so happy. That's it. Like when you find a tool that gives you true transformation and it makes your life easier, that's gold, solid gold.
Yes. But with that, we're at the end of this webinar session. Thank you again, Beth, for coming on. I'm excited to be on your platform in a few weeks from now.
Yeah,
You
well,
want to talk about that a little?
yes. So the end of February, we did last summer. It was the first of its kind. We called it Leaders Lounge. It was the end of the summer summit, and what it was an online summit of early childhood trainers, coordinators, business professionals that brought continuing education. So it's a free conference. We're going to have 20 amazing speakers. It'll be the last week of February. Danny, you're one of them. And it's going to, so then the potential of it is, if you wanted to do the all access pass, you get up to 20 hours of continuing ed for directors. And then we're going to have a 10-hour block for teachers. And it'll be, kind of, webinar teaching format. And then they'll be able to take those assessments and actually get credit for them. So, the continuing ed that we need in our centers. So super excited to collaborate with you on that.
Yes, me too. Thank you again, Beth. And thank you everybody for watching. Really quick, Shanique wants to know, what is the name of the recruitment course for March?
It's called Stuck to Strategy Academy, and it'll be on my website, which is bethcannonspeaks.com. So,
and I'll link it. I'll link everything that you've sent me, Beth, on the replay for this. So when you guys are sent the replay in your emails tomorrow, you'll see all the links for Beth's stuff in that email. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Beth. Have a good night.
Thanks. You too, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yes. Bye-bye.